one of these weird things. I decided to go on Instagram Live, and now I can't switch it off. So watch everyone. It's the technical difficulties you weren't expecting are the worst ones. So let's see if I just close Instagram. So everyone sees it. If everyone sees me live broadcasting this, do you know Mark Ruffalo? He did the same thing at a screening of the Avengers and got into a lot of trouble. So hopefully I won't. So good afternoon, Jumbo, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I think I haven't had a chance to meet many people, and while we're chatting, guys, I seem to have lost the clicker, so friends in the back, if you know where the clicker is, please let me know. Is it hiding there? Very important. Yes, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us. I haven't had a chance to meet lots of people. I think lots of people would have met my predecessor, Andrew Human, who has come to Kenya and held a number of these different platforms and discussion platforms together. And this is a great opportunity for me to get to meet everyone. So I'm hoping that throughout the course of today, we'll get a chance to all say hello, and I'll get to say hello personally to every single person. The key reason for me coming here is very, very simple. I took over from the Loeries 2 years ago, and I had this really interesting experience where I remember it was in December 2019. The Loeries made me an offer and said, please come join us as the CEO. And I went, great, it's fantastic. And they said, you don't have to worry about anything. Everything is sorted. We've got an entire plan for 2020. You just need to come and just execute the plan. And we've got these great ideas that are already in place in terms of holding this amazing creative week. So I went, fantastic, easiest gig in the world. I'm going to pitch up, and it's going to be really fun. And then COVID hit. And things absolutely changed. So I had tickets booked to Kenya, all of that was done, to come here and to meet all of you, and we canceled all of that, and things absolutely changed. Now, 2 years into my Loeries stint, it's the first time I'm getting to meet all of you, and I can promise you it's not going to be the last. I'm looking forward to coming a lot more often. So really quickly, just to share some of the work we're doing and give you an idea how things have changed in the last 2 years and some of the things that I've been passionate about and putting effort into. Got the clicker, but it doesn't work. It's technical. There we go. Oh, Max overshot for me. There we go. Sorry, Max. So just to give you an idea in terms of Loeries and the work that we do. So Loeries really exists to support creative excellence. We started in 1978 and have been around for 44 years right now. And since then, we've actually grown to cover an area that covers over 70 countries and a region of nearly 2 billion people. And we're a non-profit, and as part of that mandate as a non-profit, what we do is we ensure that every single cent that Loeries gains actually goes into supporting creative excellence. There's not a single cent that's wasted that goes to a shareholder or to anyone else. It goes into our community and strengthening our community. And then comes the question is, why do we need this? Because sometimes what happens is, from the outside, when people look in and they go, awards doesn't make sense, it's just a bunch of creative people and marketers and production people patting themselves on the back and saying, oh, we did a fantastic job. And that's not really what we do. And I think we understand this in the room. The work that we all do together as a group is that we're actually supporting these nearly 2 billion people through the work that we're doing. When we produce a piece of communication, you're not just producing something that's out there to actually look really good. What you actually are doing is you're helping individuals in society to get access to the information that they need to be able to make the decisions they need. Think about this during COVID. If our industry was not involved in a number of different areas, society in a number of different countries would have fallen apart. And I'll give you a tangible example. There were amazing people who did work. You had the frontline workers in the healthcare industry, people who are working in retail, supermarkets, who are ensuring that societies across the world had access to food. But people who don't get spoken about is the brand communications industry. Every single one of you in this room who I know was sitting at home in lockdown, still doing the work that was needed, still doing the work so that government had communication in hospitals and clinics to be able to speak to people and say, this is how you get vaccinated. Still being able to do the communication so that retailers and stores and all of these different shopping outlets had the communication they needed to be able to tell consumers that these are the products that are available and this is how your life can still maintain some sense of normality. We're the ones who are doing the work that was needed for society to be able to move forward and to be able to be propped up and to be a healthy society that we have today. And that's something that not many of us speak about. But that is an absolute reality, and that's what the Loeries is here, is to celebrate this community of amazing people who really prop up and hold society and ensures that we're able to move forward with innovation and grace in everything that we actually do. And the Loeries likes to play a small part in that role by celebrating the work that you're doing, so that when you actually enter and win and get that Loerie, you're able to go out there to your boards from a brand side and say, look, our marketing investment is making a difference and you need to spend more. Or as a creative, to be able to win that and go to the brands that you work with and say, look at the work I've done for you. This is validation that we're connecting with consumers and we're absolutely making a difference. And that's why the Loeries actually exist, so that you have a tool, you have something in place that you can say is a tangible example of the excellence that you're actually creating, so that we continue keeping this ecosystem alive. Now, one of the other things I've done, since you've already seen me skip through. Sorry guys, I seem to have lost the picture there. Let's try again. I'm not really great with these clickers. They never seem to work, do they? There we go. So one of the things that we've done and one of the changes I've made is we also want to ensure that we have strong representation from the Kenyan market to inform the decisions that we make. And Max, everyone knows Max, but you can stand up again and take a bow. Max has been doing an amazing job attending every single Loeries committee meeting. So just to give you an idea, the Loeries committee is the highest decision body within the Loeries organization that's responsible for our operations and the work we do and the strategy of the Loeries. And Max sits on this board and he absolutely gives a strong Kenyan voice to everything that we're doing, ensuring that this community is absolutely represented in all of the work that we're doing. We also have representation from MENA and representation from Nigeria as well, and Max is who's doing all of the amazing work. Other than just the Loeries committee as well, we also recognize that we need to have a strong point of market entry program. How do we ensure? Click hard. Oh, see, cheat sheet. Thank you so much. If somebody help me, we'll give this credit, but thank you. So we also have put in place a Loeries Youth Committee. Brian, you want to stand up and take a bow? So Brian was in our, where's Brian? Oh, Brian, yeah. Brian. So Brian was in the inaugural Loeries Youth Committee, which means we're getting young people to be part of this. I promise you I did not touch anything. We're leaving this back here. So Brian was part of the inaugural Loeries Youth Committee, which ensures that also Kenyan youth have a voice in the Loeries to be able to make decisions that affect the entire Africa, Middle East region. And I'm also really excited. I'm not sure if Joss, are you here as yet? Joss is probably still on the way. And we've also just recently inducted Joss Nganga into the Loeries as well, into the Loeries Youth Committee, and she's going to be continuing all of the great work that Brian started with. So as you can see, we're already ensuring that there's strong Kenyan representation through various levels, whether it's at the highest level with Max involved, or at the point of market entry level as well, as we go through it. I may trouble you for, did that work? So just to give you an idea in terms of what's happening for Loeries Creative Week, so that we can go really quickly and then we can spend our time just catching up and chatting. So Loeries Creative Week is taking place this year from the 3rd to the 7th of October. Some of you would have received judging invitations and some of you will be receiving judging invitations as time goes by. We have this amazing venue that's actually going to be with Table Mountain in the backdrop. So this is the Cape Town City Hall. It's a very iconic building because it's not used as a seat of government anymore. It really is an amazing creative space that a lot of international movies have been shot at, and it's been used in this. What's really interesting is it's the place where Nelson Mandela gave his first speech as a free man after being released from prison. And also interesting enough, it is a place where Queen Elizabeth celebrated her 21st birthday. So if you look at somebody who's 90 plus old, celebrating her 21st birthday was a really long time ago. So it's an iconic space where lots of amazing things have happened. And now what we're going to be doing is going in there and judging and finding the next crop of really amazing creative work. Then we move on to the actual awards and the seminars. So we've got this amazing venue. I know how people hate being stuck in a closed venue most of the time. So we've got this amazing glass marquee on top of a hill with, again, Table Mountain and having a look at the amazing sea. So I'm hoping you can join us to be part of that, to celebrate the best in creative excellence from our region. As I said, it's going to be really quickly. Click. Now, Chris, help me cheat, Chris. Thank you so much. And then the awards itself, Chris, I owe you up for this. Thank you so much. And then the awards itself, so how's it actually going to work? One of the amazing things we're doing is the film section is being carved out into its own awards. So we're going to have an entire film night celebrating the best in film from across the region, where you'll be able to sit and watch all of the amazing work. And then on Friday the 7th of October, we have our student awards, and hopefully we'll have some Kenyan representation in that. And then on the 7th of October, the evening, we'll do all of the other categories as well, such as design, digital, and some of the special awards that we have that are handed out there as well. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I've given up on this now. And then we have master classes. We have this amazing venue called the Fugard, also an over 100-year-old building that's been recently modernized. Unbelievable. I was in there recently meeting some of the community from this area as well, and it's just such a fantastic, fantastic venue. One of the interesting things is about the area we're choosing to do all of this, and Chris, if I can trouble you again there, thank you so much, is we're going to be doing this in an area called District 6. Now this is an area that's just full with culture and amazing spaces. There's bars, there's eventing spaces, a few guys there, but it has an interesting history. So in apartheid South Africa, this space had over 60,000 residents who were living there who were evicted, and it was turned into a whites-only area. And it has this really intense history in terms of what oppression has done, but also it has an interesting story in terms of how the human experience has risen above that, the creativity that's come from it. So it's really more of an experience to be able to go into the space, to celebrate the great work that's coming out of the Loeries, and for us to just celebrate as a community coming out from this crazy time of COVID, and for us to be able to get together. So that just gives you an idea. You can see some of the pictures in terms of the spaces and the venues, and if you're coming, don't be prepared to sleep. Sleep is going to be the last thing you're going to be interested in. Sorry, the next one over there, please. So just to give you an idea, last year we held a much smaller Loeries Creative Week, and for anyone who's never been, even though it's smaller, and who else was there? Max was there, Brian was there. Was there anyone else who was at Loeries last year? Amazing, great. So you would have all seen it, what it is. So here's a recap. Chris, thank you again. It's going to be an absolute celebration of all of us in our industry, and I'd love for all of you to join. One of the interesting things is I always get asked wherever we go, like, who owns the Loeries? And I'm sure somewhere in the back of your mind, somebody's thinking, who owns the Loeries? And as I said at the beginning, total non-profit. If you entered Loeries, who's entered? Has anyone entered? Okay, good try. If you've entered Loeries this year, it automatically makes you an owner of the Loeries. It's that simple. So membership entry means that you become a member, which means you're a part owner of the Loeries. And that's how simple it really is. That's our legal governing structure itself. So come, this is your party, you own it, and I really want to say this. What I want to do during my time at the Loeries is to ensure that Kenya takes a really strong ownership of the whole Loeries property itself. And for us to be able to work together, that means at the Creative Week, in different events that we do. So if you want to take ownership of this, come, be involved, show up strong as a strong creative community from Kenya itself, and you'll take ownership. Be the loudest voice in the room, and I think it will be really amazing to have all of you there. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over the next part to Max, who's going to take you through some of the work, and I'll take over from Chris. So thank you everyone once again, and I look forward to chatting once all of these formalities are done.
Thank you so much, Preetesh. So I guess as we start laying the seats here for our speakers, I thought it would be, nice if we saw some work, some of the Grand Prix winners that won at last year's Loeries, and just to give ourselves almost like a point of view in the discussion that we'll have ahead. So I'm gonna play the outdoor Grand Prix. I don't know if some of you have seen this work, but if you haven't. So some really impressive work from Adidas there. And I think why we chose to show this work is because one, Kenya is a very largely outdoor market. Like we've seen brands talking to each other on billboards, we've seen that banter, we've seen people putting, the tissue wraps on a billboard. And this is just to kind of show you there's more things we can do with the mediums that we have. Also, we're very famous in doing a lot of integrated activities. So there's a TV, radio, digital, all working in concert. I'd like to play another piece of work that also won the integrated Grand Prix. So,
So looking at the sky, loving astronomy is rooted to the hearts of the people and to the faith. In the desert, you have the land and the sky. You have to work with it, understand it, decode it, and use it for your benefits.
Really, really amazing stuff. And we're seeing this trend where brands are actually having a point of view on what is happening in the world. And with that, we decided, I think the best topic for a fireside chat today should be around where do we see the future of creativity going? Are we the brands that say that we're sticking to what we believe in? Are we just taking global campaigns and just localizing them? Or are we adding a twist there? Is there some context that comes from our culture, from what is happening right now, that can introduce new work? So with that, let me welcome our panelists today. Thank you so much, guys, for joining a small discussion around the future of creativity. And I don't know if you should do another round of introductions. Maybe I didn't do justice to the first one. So maybe you can start, ladies first.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm actually so happy that finally Preetesh got in the room. My name is Svetlana. I'm a co-founder and director of Tandem Network.
It's the normal thing. The one thing you can always guarantee is that there'll be technical difficulties. It started with me. I'm sorry. I think I started the trend.
Okay. You said ladies first, so I'll go. My name is Kendi, Carolyne Kendi. I lead the marketing team at Safaricom. And I'm honored to be in a room of creatives, because usually creatives hate us, right? As a client. So the fact that I've made it here, I'm like, okay, I'm lucky. But really grateful to be here and I'm excited to be part of this conversation.
Thank you. Hi guys. Hi guys. My name is Alex Bodu. It's very weird for me today because for 12 years of my life I introduced myself as a digital creative and tech guy. Now I'm head of customer experience, and the last 1 year has really been a different experience, but it makes for interesting conversations with some of my former partners in crime. Really excited to be here, thank you. And I'm from Absa Bank, for avoidance of confusion. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So let's just, straight jump into it. Future of creativity. We've seen a lot of great work from, coming from Kenya, coming from the region. We've seen, for example, the work from Adidas and how they're turning a billboard into a swimming pool. Question in your mind would be, that costs a lot of money. And just to, get a sort of perspective around, does creativity need a lot of budget? And I'm looking at the Safaricom client in the room for obvious reasons.
Thank you for that, Mike. So does creativity need a lot of money? The way I look at budget, and I think the challenge, or like all of us to think about, is when you're pitching an idea or you're pitching a concept, right? It's about really understanding what is it that your customer wants, right? When I'm thinking about a campaign, and at Safaricom now we're talking about customer obsession, right? You have to be obsessed about your customer, because if I'm obsessed about you, then I'll know that whatever proposition I'm putting out is going to work for you, and that's where value is. So first, I really struggle with when you look at money as just money versus thinking about it as value of spend. So the challenge I have to everyone, and I challenge all my agencies as well, is how obsessed are you about me as your customer, right? I'm your client. How much do you know about what Safaricom needs? What are we trying to drive? What are we trying to build? What are we trying to do? I think if you understand that and understand me as your customer well enough, you'll be able to position whatever idea you have in a way that's gonna get you to spend the money that you need to spend on it. So money is not for me. Does it cost money? Sometimes. Sometimes yes, it costs a high level of investment. Sometimes it doesn't cost it. Sometimes it's not. But the ability to sell an idea has to be based on understanding what I need as your client and as your customer, and positioning that idea as a solution for me. If you do that, it's easy to sell. I mean, I use the example of the billboard. You're talking about the billboards, the banter, right? The one we did the other day with Gemina Insurance. I mean, it was uncomfortable, right? So Max calls me and he's like, "We have to do this," and I'm like, "I need to go and tell my CEO to respond." Okay, cool. But I was like, "I love it. I like it. It's a cool idea." So what did we do? I said, "Send it to me." I think my CEO and Sylvia were in London. I said, "Look, I'm sending this thing." I send it to Sylvia. I'm like, "Okay, you're sitting next to him. Send it." So if it's a good idea, you get the level of engagement that you need to get it done, right? And that's how actually we did it in, I think it was like 24 hours. And I remember Alex at one name saying, "We're here, we're ready to print, approve." So I think for me, cost, I wouldn't look at it, and you need to stop thinking about it money, but let's think about value. And if you think about it from a value perspective, then you're likely gonna sell it.
Agree, and then I absolutely think, if you have any proactive ideas right now, you can see Kendi on the side.
Did I put myself in that?
And maybe it would be interesting to hear, Alex, from your perspective. Absa has done some really, really interesting stuff lately, so, could you shed some light on budget versus the level of creativity that you have?
Okay. So as Kendi was speaking, I was trying to play through some of my favorite campaigns, the ones I consider to be the most successful that I've done in the course of my career. They were not the most expensive campaigns. So let's start there. I don't think money is the determinant of whether a campaign is going to be great. I remember you once saying that your best briefs are the ones that have a brief and no budget to it. And I was like, we interpreted that to mean zero budget. that's how we interpreted that. But true to God, I mean, I can tell you that the reason those campaigns were great, one was that feeling of limitation from a resource standpoint forced a lot of creativity to come out of it. So sometimes it's kind of a blessing in disguise when you don't have that much budget to work with. On the flip side though, and this is now speaking from the perspective of sitting in rooms with CEO and trying to convince him to approve a budget, the scale of the prize is always a big determinant, which is, I assume, is what you meant by value. What are we trying to go for? It's not just a fickle, superficial campaign. And so, in our case, especially after rebranding into Absa, and you're just transitioning from a 100-year-old brand, you have a brand new brand, and then COVID hits. So now you have to navigate COVID and a new brand in the same year. We had to spend money, and we did spend money because the scale of the prize was, if Absa did not land and land strongly in the market, we were done as a business because there was no going back to markets. So the scale of the prize is always a big determinant, and I think it's important to also understand what that is as part of what you're asking.
It's very, very interesting, and all great creative comes out of a point of constraint, yeah? So budget could be one of the things, but I think for truly great work to exist, you don't need big budgets, you actually need big ideas. And I think the conversation here was, she was a big idea, she was something that is actually bigger than our brand, has a point of view, then you spend the money. I don't know if, Sewraj, you have the same thoughts about constraints in creativity.
I think constraints in creativity is within our creative mind, not within the budget, to be honest. Because it's all about, to me, it's all about effectiveness of your creativity, right? I think the conversation that we need to have is whatever we create for whatever budget, right? And keep creating over and over and over and over again, keep using the same channels in the same way. Is that the most effective way, right? I give you an example. So I know roughly how much brands spend on TVCs, right? And how much then it will cost them to air the TVC on the mainstream channels. I gotta tell you, it's crazy. It's just crazy, right? Thinking of, especially about the, ad blindness, the people that as soon as the TVC hits or commercial hits, you're on your device, right? You switch your attention. No, like I read a quote recently that says, people don't watch ads, right? People watch what interests them. Sometimes it's an ad, right? So and this is where the truth is. So I think it's really because we're talking about future creativity, right? I think we really need to challenge ourselves by asking ourselves a question: is there any other way to deliver brand message, in an effective way that people would want to consume, right? COVID has changed the way we consume media and the way, the time we spend on media, and also because we had so much time in our hands, we were at home, you were just consuming everything out there, right? Because of that, you also became picky, and because of that, you also understood what you're actually interested in, right?
It's an ownerless phone.
You're Preetesh paying today.
I would gladly take that phone if it doesn't have no.
I'll just decline somebody's call.
Sorry. So going back to the point is about rethinking the way we kind of craft our creatives, right? I give you an example that earlier this year we launched the 6-part TV drama called Born to Fly, right? And we were trying to deliver the message to our audience, which is teenage audience, around how to stay true to yourself, how to be confident, how to resist peer pressure, and all this, right? Now, but also there was a hidden message around tobacco prevention and all that, right? So we basically realized by sitting with our audience, realizing what works for them, what kind of language, what kind of formats, we realized, okay, the soap opera and TV drama is something that actually, the youth loves watching. So that let's just hit our message in that format. And I have to tell you that we shot 6-part series, 20 minutes per episode, 6 episodes, cheaper, less budget that we would shoot some other commercials, right? And then because it was a content that mainstream media wanted, right? We added at almost no cost on the mainstream media, right? Then another channel came to us and said, hey, we want this content, and we add for free for you, right? So now we save money on the sports, right? On Citizen TV and all the other Akili networks, but we invested in content, and we invested in focus groups, and we invested in understanding what our consumer actually clicks with, right? So that's where the investment, that's where we spend more time and energy and money, right? And that's I think what we I want us to have a conversation around, right? Is the format right? Is it about the TVC for 8 million or for 15 million? Is that the conversation we're having about the budget and creativity? Or this is the budget I have, this is the audience, and audience, this is what works for my audience, how we can package it in the way that they want to, engage with, watch, consume, so on and so forth. That's a long answer. Sorry.
It is. I think, when it comes to challenging the format, challenging the medium itself, we're all amazing marketers and creative people here. We do understand the mediums we play with, but what you're saying is the work that actually comes to the top is the one that break the medium, So we're not just shooting another, a lot of money TVC. We're saying that, hey, here's a TV series that we can watch. And maybe this is a question to the audience, the creatives in the room. What are your views on rule breaking? Do you feel like you work or we exist in a market where we're allowed to break the rules, where it's okay to substitute your TVC with a TikTok dance, a TikTok challenge. I don't know, who's brave enough? Who's the person who speaks gets a shot of TikTok.
There you go, answer.
Thank you, Max, and thank you for that question. But before I answer that, I want to bring in a point of view here. I'm on the side of the creative, not really the side we usually work together, but then I'm on this side of the agency. I want to bring in the whole question of, there are two things here. There's the creativity and there's the creator. Now, for the creator to function, there has to be an environment for him to be creative, all right? Now the big question is, do we have the environment that allows the creatives to be creative? And most of the time, we feel as if we've been put in a box. Most of the time. You get a brief and it sort of puts you in a box. And again, most of the time, we never get a chance to work closely enough with the clients to get a better understanding in terms of what indeed they wanted to achieve. And even going out to the market. We do our desktop creative. I'll get a brief and give my own point of view without going to the market and seeing what is relevant to my client's audience. I think that's very clear. Now to answer your question, I strongly do feel we do not have that leeway in terms of us being left to be creative. I had a very good opportunity and a chance to be in Cape Town with King James, and I kid you not, I was given that leeway just to be creative, and that's the kind of environment that they have. And I mean, if you come back to even locally here, and I think most creative have been through this at some point, we have some toxic environments, right? Toxic in the sense that you're not let to express yourself. Everything is limited to the agency's philosophy or the client's philosophy and the brand guidelines that you cannot break away from. So indeed, there is that constraint. And if you could get that freedom just to be creative, and like I said, there has to be the creative.
I'm not sure if I fully agree or maybe I didn't fully understand your point. So please forgive me if whatever I say is not aligned with what you're saying. Speaking as client, so I worked as both client and in agency, in my past life, right? And I remember when I became client, Bharat can tell you this, I tried to be the biggest voice of, let's let the creatives be creative, right? The problem I encountered, and is what I started pushing back, and we actually tried some stuff, I think, with Densu and Joe, and some of it worked, was you're in that room and it's like your opinion versus my opinion, right? Guess what? I'm paying you. So my opinion, whether you like it or not,
yes,
right? It will work. It's just how it's going to go.
Yes.
So the way we changed that narrative, and especially in the last 3 years of my career in that space, I wish I'd learned this much earlier, was to not just come with opinions, but also support it with data. And not data from Google, that you Google and then you can say, you can't did this, and you actually go out and do the work,
yes,
right? And I remember we did a mortgage campaign, I think it was the year before COVID, where there had been a brief that had come from the mortgage team. And I didn't agree with the brief, and the agency also didn't agree with the brief. But we knew that if we went into the room and just say, it doesn't make sense, it wasn't gonna work. So we went and did focus groups, and they got people into the room and they talked to them. So when we came back, we actually presented to them insights from people who had mortgages from Sancha and the rest of them, and said, if you don't go back and rethink what it is you're telling us to go and communicate, this product will fail. They listened, right? It took, lost another month in the planning stage, but guess what? That mortgage campaign is one of the most successful we ever did, if not the most successful. And after that, they always listened to everything we had to say, year after year. So I would say, don't let it degenerate into an opinion conversation, because we will always lose.
And I think I just need to contribute to that point. Because first I noticed when she was talking about big budgets, she was looking at me. I saw your side eye. So I think, and it goes back, I think, to if you really understand if you're obsessed about your client, yeah, who's your customer in this case. And I'll use the example of Gilles the other day, because we're working on fixed, a campaign for our fixed, and we went to pipeline. So, of course, the agency, again, opinions, right?
Yes.
Opinions about what we should do. And even we went with an opinion about what solution we should give for a customer, a fixed solution for a customer in pipeline. I mean, we went there and we spent the morning in pipeline, just we walked into this guy at Cyber Cafe, you know, and Gilles, you know, we were now debriefing. He was like, man, we know nothing. Truth. Because at the end of the day, what you're doing, what the agency is doing, creativity is in service of the customer. If you do not understand what the customer needs, right, it will always degenerate into that thing of opinions. So I'm also a big believer in bring the customer into the room. Go to where the customer is as creatives. Spend time with the customer. The other big opportunity I see usually is, and when I look at, because I see a lot of creative in our week, you can imagine, right? I'm always like, where's the creative, where's the insight? The understanding of the customer that is coming through in the creative expression. Half the time there's nothing, I keep challenging me, I'm like, this is an infomercial. It's telling me, you've taken the product insight and you're putting it in the creative and you're saying this is what we want. I'm like, you see, you cannot understand until, you know, and so I'll use a good example of a campaign we did for Story Bambe, which is about, you can talk more, right? And the creative insight was about Kenyans like Moshene, and nobody wants, and to that type of locusts, and everyone wants to be in the next scheme, right? So that level of understanding, what are the nuances? What is it that is important to customers? And then translating that to activate and to bring my product proposition to life, that for me is the big, and once you do that, if you spend enough time in the customer, understanding the customer, and it's exactly what he's saying, you build credibility, and once it works, then now we're gonna listen, we'll be like, hi, this guy, bring him, he knows what's going on. So I think there's just that proactivity that we also need to challenge ourselves. And the last point is, I love agencies who make me uncomfortable, right? But you cannot come from the street and come and start just challenging, you know? Build the relationship, right? You have to build, at the end of the day, you have to understand you're selling ideas to people, right? This person, how do you make sure that you're, again, being proactive to understand how am I spending enough time with Kendi, so that when we talk Kendi, by the I don't like your feedback, that you guys are killing us, right? Because if we start to, because I think that us versus them thing is actually not serving us, and it doesn't serve anyone, right? So if we get into the space where we understand that this is a partnership, right? And the power of a creative idea can only make sense if it added value to my customer, provide a solution to my customer, and added value to my business. That's what we're trying to do. We have to work together to get that. And there has to be, in fact I was like, I don't think you shouldn't apologize. I'm very happy for us to have uncomfortable conversations. Actually, I disagree with you. And it's okay. You disagree with me, it is okay. Because it's about the idea. Once you get to that space, that's how now we are sharpening each other. You probably won't go in my direction, I won't go with yours, but where we land is probably going to be the best place for the campaign and for the customer. So also I think really creating spaces where we can challenge each other, because it's kind of boring. I mean, I'm always challenging. Sorry, I probably just don't, but they know me. I'm always like, okay, although I won't do it in the call, I'll be like on WhatsApp. This is a bad idea, you know. But I mean, you know, we have to be comfortable. And you know, it's not me. I'm not saying you're crap. It's not about you as a creative, right? But I'm like, this idea, you guys haven't gone into what I'm saying. So I think that discomfort, I think, is an important part of the creative process that we have to foster.
I'm gonna add some. I don't know if my mic's working, but I'm gonna add something really, really quick. Maybe I'll point your mic. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm gonna add something really, really quickly, and I'm gonna take a step back, and then I'm gonna keep quiet really quickly. So, this discussion is not just unique to Kenya, right? It's across Africa and the Middle East. And one of the things that I've found is, I'm gonna give you a little analogy. Imagine two people come together, they don't know each other, and they suddenly have a baby. And suddenly now they have this baby, and they're trying to take care of this baby. but they don't understand each other. They both love the child and they'll do everything they can, but if there's a disconnect between the two people, you're never going to get them to agree with anything with the child. And that's what the reality of the situation is. You find that from the brand side, there's a brand that they love, and they love it. And I see that love equally reciprocated from the agency side, that people are passionate about it. But in truth, in a lot of cases, in a lot of markets, they don't understand each other. The agency environment's evolving as new media is coming, and people are changing, and there's just change that's happening. And the same changes are happening on the brand side. And what we do is we continue going through it with exactly the same thinking that we have from the past. And you'll tend to find that if you actually start at a point of understand the structures on either side, understand what people are doing on either side, and understand the passion that comes from the either side, you'll tend to find that the projects that you work on, the campaigns that you work on will proceed a lot more smoother. But it really should start not at the point of just on the idea and making sure that you have this love for the idea, but take a step back and get to know each other and everyone involved in that campaign.
So, say as I was hoping to right away, but I do think as you go through the ideation process, it has to start with data, insights. You should understand how the customer journey has changed, how customers behave differently with media, but most importantly, how business goals have changed. The clients that we work with, their goals are changing all the time. By definition, they're not going to be static. So with that, if the idea is birthed from those insights, that data, understanding where the business is going, understanding how consumers have changed, then the only thing that's left is really this confidence gap. We kind of look at that a lot. We have a great idea, but how do we give confidence to a client to take that idea? We used to joke when I was on the client side that you never get fired for hiring IBM. If you go with the tried and tested, you know what your goals are, you know you're going to hit your KPIs. Why am I going to go with this, this crazy idea? The only way you're going to push me to a different direction is when you tell me that actually the old way is not going to work anymore. Consumers are not going to react the same way they did in the past. The business goals won't be met by the current way of thinking, and now we need to do something different. So it's up to us with the crazy ideas to show that actually this is the right idea, there's just a confidence gap, and you need to walk into that presentation kind of knowing there's a confidence gap, and you just need to convince them. But you need to have the data, you need to have the insights, and everything needs to tell that story. So by the time you get to that crazy idea, the client says, this is the only thing we could have possibly done.
I've been to so many of these things, and it always comes down into us versus them kind of conversation. I want to take it on a bit of a tangent and introduce a third player into this conversation, which I feel, and it's kind of been mentioned here, that's actually the beginning and the end, which is the consumer, right? Your creativity starts and ends with the consumer. And I won't touch into the insight part of it. What I want to bring out is that I think if we look at the future of creativity, the consumer is going to play more and more a part because creativity is not owned by us anymore. If you look, especially you look at digital media going on, what's happening on TikTok, what's happening on Instagram Reels, what's happening on that, it is millions of people expressing their creativity through skits, through little short videos, through all that. And that's what your consumer is actually consuming more than they are consuming the content we as brands and agencies are taking. So as you look at where does creativity own, who generates it, is there space for it, understand that where it starts from is we have to catch up with our consumer first, and then the rest of it follows. The budget idea will follow, the insight will follow. But if you look at the last, and an honest thing to ask any creative and agency, go and look at the most trending videos on TikTok, the most trending reels, everything, then go look at your content and ask yourself, are they the same? Are you on the same wavelength? And the answer for a lot of us, I'll be honest, is no. So for your budget to be effective, you need to be speaking to the consumer's language and giving them what they want. You need for you to actually drive your product consideration to the point where I'm going to remember you when I'm at my moment of truth. you have to have left an impression too. But if we're not catching up, and I feel it's a catch-up game for the creatives and brands, if we're not catching up to how creative the consumers are being, all the rest of it doesn't actually matter, because we're tapping our backs at the end of the day.
On Twitter, that the CEO of Google said that the search has changed. People are not searching for restaurants on Google. 40% of people are searching for restaurants on TikTok and Instagram. So what he's just said about consumers, it's quite true that they've noticed a change. 40% are searching more for restaurants on TikTok. And TikTok actually influences people on where they're going to go to a restaurant based on video reviews. So yes, it starts and ends with the consumer.
So when marketing used to butter my bread, up to a year ago, the customer does now. But I used to consume a lot of brand content, right? And then I stopped being a marketer professionally, and I generally couldn't care less about brand content. I consume very little brand content now, and when it shows up in my feed, it's because of a certain alignment to the stuff I'm already consuming, and something I'm going to talk about a bit later. We marketers drink a lot of our own Kool-Aid. We sit in rooms like this and go, oh my God, I was such an amazing creator. Customers don't care. That's the truth. And until that alignment starts happening between what goes on in Max's creative room with his copywriters there and what is going on with that guy in the matatu just trying to get entertained or whatever it is, we're just gonna keep doing this.
And I'm seeing a couple of things coming up when this discussion is going. We're saying the future of creativity is more about the partnership. It's more about, it's not creative versus client, it's actually the creative and the client. And I think the Loeries have done this for over the years when they award the Loerie to the brand and the agency. And we're seeing that even globally where it's Burger King and David winning a Grand Prix. So, I mean, going forward should be about that deep end partnership. It's how are you guys friends? You know, can you joke about the brief? Can you have conversations that actually deepen that partnership, that takes away almost the risk from, from the idea? All big ideas are risky. Everyone feels a certain type of way when you're presented with something that is scary. So if you have that partnership going, it's easy, and it's easier for Kendi to go like, okay, I will actually you take the creative risk, I'll take the budget risk, and you commit to something. But then it drives me back to something that, Bharat was saying there about you need to be more obsessive about the customer. We are all looking at the same TikTok challenges. Every brand wants to be part of it. I mean, where does it stop? So if you're going with that lens where we're looking at consumers and wanting to mimic them, want all our work be the same. So where does the gatekeeping come from? Where is the newness coming from? And maybe Svetlana can.
No, we cannot be all the same, because they're different brands, right? And the thing is, you don't need to be a dancer or a singer to succeed on TikTok. Like, there are a lot of business entrepreneurs, there are a lot of chefs that can't dance to save their lives, right? But they're killing it on TikTok, right? So I think the mediums will change, right? The mediums, the formats will change. So what we're doing now is, like Bharat said, we're catching up, right? And the brands, if brands are not adopting to current mediums and current ways consumer, kind of consume the content, right? it's going to be forever a catch up. It's going to be much harder to adapt to the new media, because new media will come and it's going to be just iteration of what is happening now. And if you miss this gap, it's going to be very hard to catch up. Now, going back to you saying, do we need to mimic? No, we need to be authentic. We need to still stay true to where we are, right? So we don't want Alex to go and dance. I really don't want to see that. I really don't want to see that, Alex. But Alex, as a brand, knows everything about money, right? And people want to know about money. And it's a big issue here. How do I manage my money? Where do I keep it, you know? So what brands have not done, and I think what creatives have not helped them to do, is to own that space where you, first of all, drive with knowledge. And don't deviate from your knowledge, right? Don't talk about money today and then cooking tomorrow, you know? Because if you look at our campaigns, they're very fragmented. If you go to brands' social media pages, they're so fragmented. Who are you talking to? What are you talking about? You know, you're talking about partnership with KQ, buy tickets, and then take loan, and then, you know, something else, right? Buy a house. So it has to be more like, let's find what is your, you know, kind of area of influence, right? Because you're subject matter experts, and because now you have to start creating content that your consumer and your customer want to consume on a daily basis. So then you're top of mind. And when I need something from you, you as an expert of money, I'll go to you, right? That's it.
If I can.
Oh, sorry, Max.
No, I think my question was more, when you surprise the consumer, will you surprise them?
Yeah.
If, you know, it's the same thing we're doing, all of us, will you surprise them? I guess you answered.
Yeah, I think, look, and I like the example about TikTok, right? Because I think it's also quite nice, and I like TikTok. But it goes back to first the customer. Do you even understand this customer, how they use TikTok? They don't use TikTok. What are they, again, it goes back to the platform is the platform. But it's really about understanding what is it that customer goes to TikTok and how do they engage with TikTok. So once you understand that, then you know how best do I position my brand message for this customer, right? Because again, the platform is like, you know, TikTok, Instagram, digital has just created an opportunity for you to share your message, get your reach to a bunch of people at a much cheaper cost, than TV. Before we used to sit down waiting for 7 o'clock news, right? And 9 o'clock news. Now all of a sudden, we have this platform which makes it available. But now, how you leverage that platform, and that's now where, so creativity again for me is, there's creativity in the idea, in the creative idea. There's creativity in how you execute. There's creativity in how you package yourself. And that's, I think, the task. You know, I told my team all the time, like, that's why you were hired, right? Because first there's always a constraint, There's always going to be a problem you have to solve. You don't have budget. That is life, you know? I keep saying right now, if you understand what's going on in the context, for both our consumer and for businesses, right? Post-COVID, it's hard. So, I mean, even as Safaricom, we're not going to spend the kind of money we're spending in the past. Impossible. Those TVCs for helicopters, we're done. Never. Let me just make it clear. Never. We're done. Right? And if a brand and a business like Safaricom is thinking like that, imagine how the rest of the businesses are thinking. So, and that doesn't mean, therefore, now we're not going to be creative anymore. No, it means how do we need to shift how we see where does the creativity come? And where does that come to life? And that for me is actually a challenge. The constraint is there, it is stuff, you don't have it, but there's so many opportunities that are there within the world that we live in. So that for me is, I think, the thing. And then you have to make it work for your brand.
Just add your mic, since I think mine isn't working. But just to add as well, and also from what Svetlana has also said is, you know, if you look globally right now in the last years, because of COVID, a lot of the communication we saw was very purpose-driven. There's been a lot of discussion around all of this, and somehow I think somewhere brands have become, a number of brands have become embarrassed about the fact that they need to make money. And they hide behind this fragmented message of going, look at all the good we do all this amazing stuff, we're supporting it. And I think it's fantastic that brands do that, but we need to emerge from this point where we go, we need to stop being embarrassed about the fact that brands need to survive and make money, because
as a strong brand, you support entire ecosystems below that as well. And that ultimately comes through with the creativity as well. We need to move to a point where we go, this is what the brand does, and we need to actually speak to the core value of what the brand is actually offering, and that is going to be involved in making money itself, and we need to start communicating that a lot stronger right now. And that should be the point of creativity, and that's what's going to yield higher budgets, obviously, for the brands to be able to spend in future creative initiatives.
So I grew up in my career-wise. I grew up in the age of gimmicks. There was a time when it was just about, that's when the word viral came out, because it was really one gimmick after another. And then causes came over the last few years, and I think some of the biggest scans were all about this cause and the other cause. What I'm seeing a lot more now, and the examples Max played for us here, for example, that is what I'm calling it purpose-led creatives. So it's almost like a mix of the two. The creativity doesn't go, but it needs to be authentic to who you are as an organization. So at Absa, we say bringing your possibilities to life is our reason for existence. And we got this fresh opportunity 3 years ago to truly start asking that question with every single thing that we do. And I remember one of the first campaigns we did was, we were calling it Wall of Possibilities. It's one a bunch of awards for these guys. And it was, we decided not to do a product campaign that time because a product campaign would not really bring out that purpose. So we took the money that was going to be used for the product campaign and used it for this cause. But it was gimmicky. It was a thing people were supposed to come and write stuff on it, but it was very rooted to purpose and it worked great for the brand. In 3 years of repeatedly doing those kind of campaigns, the Absa brand in Kenya is much stronger than Barclays ever was in 100 years of being here. So it works, but it has to be very authentic to who you are as a brand. Yeah.
Good afternoon, my name is Mwaura from ABL, and like Kendi, I'm so happy to be here because I'm also on the client side. Preetesh, you have a meeting in 6 minutes.
No. I'm going to skip it for all of you. There we go.
As we're talking about the future of creativity, and I think the future is now. So I just wanted to share and get your point of view of what we have done at ABL. When I joined ABL about 4 years ago, we had about 10 digital or 12 digital agencies across East Africa. And I found it really hard for us to really, put the consumer at the core. We were literally blasting advertising at consumers. In fact, I remember I belonged to this WhatsApp group and they used to make fun of our comms, especially for Task. I even left the WhatsApp, I couldn't take it. It was terrible. But it wasn't terrible because the agency was not good. It was terrible because we were really hard to work with. We were that client who were, navigating, and I've seen, a lot of my agencies or former agencies here, we were really not easy to navigate, or even understand our consumer or our business or our route to market. So just as the pandemic was starting, we decided to in-house our digital creative, or the creative that we will put on digital. And now we have a team of about 25 creatives who sit in-house. They're agency, but they're full-time in-house sitting within ABL marketing as one team. And why we did that is because there was a lot of tension between brand, even shopper, and the agency teams. It has been a journey. It's 2.5. I'm not saying it's all kumbaya right now, but there's a lot of shift that has happened because the team that sits in-house in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania now sit in when we're doing business planning, when we're our weekly meetings. They understand what are the challenges the business are facing now and how do we address it from a creative point of view. The first time I took the team for a trade visit, went and visited some bars, and the same thing they said, we don't know our consumer. When we're sitting in our lush offices in Waraka, clearly we don't know anything. And now that we're fully open again, I've challenged them. I said, you need to go to the trade every single week. And remember, this is the time this team was formed literally a week before all bars were closed in March. So we're all sent home, and then now they were struggling. And our business at that time in 2020 March was 90% in the bar. So 90% of our business collapsed. And now we're telling this team, we still need to drive top of mind awareness to consumers who don't know where they're going to go drink. But good to say, I mean, the shift has now changed where about the bar, the off-trade has increased considerably. So my point is, I mean, it's something we tried, we experimented, it seems to be working. We're not yet there 100%. We continue to work with creative agencies who still support us. But one of the biggest good news stories for us is around the Tusker brand, because that's the brand we started working with. We really didn't understand the consumer. The consumer is 18 to 24. The team, in-house team, are very young, purposely. In fact, I tell them, when they're bringing me work to approve, because I'm media, so I usually approve at the point of where we're going to flight. I don't typically get involved from beginning to end. And I say, if you see whether they're happy about the work, you've lost the plot. Because me, I'm not 18 to 24. If I'm like, wow, I can relate to this. So I think just even as much as they're younger, we've exposed them to, Tusker is not a premium, it's a mainstream brand. And we've just told them, how are we speaking to 18 to 24s and what do we need to do differently? And the good news, Tusker, for those of you who have worked on Tusker for many years, is finally turning around. And Kendi as well. Yeah, I think just to add on to that, because I think it's an important point to note, is the same thing at Safaricom. 2 years ago, we also changed our agency model. Exactly the same thing, where we said, first, when we talk about understanding where your customer is and what you're doing, right? What is a digital agency in this day and age? What is that digital idea? It's a big idea.
Yeah.
Now, once you crack what the big idea is, what we went forth to do is to say, whoever, if you have come up with a great idea, think through that idea, through the line for the customer. Because at the end of the day, the way we were, and it's the same thing, it was difficult to just get consistency and get the big idea. So first, fundamentally shifting the thinking. So now my team, we are all digital marketers, right? Because when you think of an idea, if I'm thinking about what I want to do for whatever proposition I'm putting in place, I have to think about it through the line. And the same, because of that shift we did internally, then that is the same shift that has happened to our ecosystem. And right now, we actually don't have digital agencies. And then we in-housed digital media buying, which again was interesting. So ABL, but I think it's definitely, for me, that's the future. So think about the future of creativity. Even business models are shifting. And as agencies, as people in the ecosystem, you need to shift. You need to see where, again, if you're obsessed about it, figure out what we're doing. Instead of complaining and saying, these guys now, there's no more agency fees coming in from digital, It's about understanding what is it that is happening there, and then therefore what is the opportunity for me as a business. Because at the end of the day, so we insourced our digital media ban. Again, we still have an integrated media agency. Again, even from a media perspective, we said end-to-end, think about everything. But then when it comes to now building the capability of bidding, of, and Jaramba is here, he just moved out of that team, but we got fancy people like Jaramba to come and sit in the team, and the same thing. And they're the ones who are now leading. So if they come and say, this is, I think, what we need to do, can be the same thing, I'm like, okay. As long as, let's agree on the output, what's the outcome? Is it delivering? Then we do it. So I think generally, as an industry as well, there's just that openness to rethinking how we are structured and rethinking how we work together to be relevant in this new future. Because if we don't move, then we're all going to be completely irrelevant.
Because I find it very interesting. We're talking about the future of creativity, and we talked about the need for partnership to happen, and the partnership is not with oneself, the partnership with the client. When I'm hearing you guys talk, I do not have the sense that you are willing and thinking about taking your agency or having your agency as part of that process. I think from an agency standpoint, there's no doubt in our mind that first and foremost we need to understand whom we're targeting, and understanding that customer is not, like you said, Alex, it's not from a Google standpoint. Okay? We need to be able to go in there and fully understand what drives, will motivate the pain points and everything else, such that we are able to come up with solutions which will be authentic, relevant, and move them, in the way that we ought or we anticipated them to move. Now, do we think that the agencies, have been taken or have been included in that journey in a way that, they can afford to actually do that? Okay? She's very proud about, moving 20 people internally and everything else. And what it tells me is that those people have been able to build a strong brand intimacy, because guess what? They are full-time employee, by Diageo ABL. They have enough bandwidth, to go trade visit every weekend and so on and so forth. They breathe in and out, EABL portfolio. Now, you take your agency, you give them 10,000 shillings a month, and yet you expect them to deliver to the level of KPMG. It's not possible. Okay? Do you bring us when you think about, brand plans? Everything is confidential. So we are not involved, we are not in that process. So we come down the line, and yet the expectation is for us to have the same understanding that you have of your brand, your market segment, your customer, and yet, we've not been somehow, empowered. So I see the opportunity in truly building that brand partnership. How often do we interact with our clients other than status meetings? Do we have brand strategy sessions where we just talk about what happened this month? This is brand performance, these are the challenges, we've observed in the market this month, and so on and so forth. I think if, the agency-client relationship can be fostered to a point where we are able to do that, you will get that creativity. You will get that proactiveness, coming from the agency. You will be able to appreciate your agency beyond, I have 6 agencies and there's just one of them. I remember back in the days, when we started in this industry in Johannesburg, I used to have a pass for Vodacom. I was part of the Vodacom team, and I used to have a pass. Meaning, I would wake up on Monday and decide I'm not going to FCB, I'm going to Vodacom office. And I'll be part of the marketing team. Do we feel that way today as agency? Do we think it's something we want to put across, to our clients? And I think, that intimacy is only that which will get us to be able to do beautiful and amazing work. Today, we are still treated as stepchild, and yet we expect to have what's happened or those examples, we share. It's not going to happen. Let's be fair. South Africa does great work because of the brand intimacy. And I'm saying this because I've worked in that market for the longest time. In Nigeria today, you're getting more and more of that brand intimacy happening between agency and client, and you're seeing some amazing work coming out of Nigeria. Kenya used to produce amazing work. But today, I think, you think about South Africa, you think about Nigeria, then you will think about, Kenya in terms of the region and whatnot. So, yes, everything that has been said is valid, but I think we also need to consider what type of relationship do we want to foster, us as agencies with clients, and clients with agencies, and how much commitment we want to put into that.
We need tequila shots
now.
But
I want to make a comment about that, because I took you to paper.
It was more about right there.
I think for me, and it's a really good point, but I really feel like it goes back to what is your proactivity as an agency? And the same way, I as a client, as a marketing person, what do? I go spend time understanding what does this customer of mine, because that's where I'm extracting my value from, right? I want them to pay for my product. So I spend time in pipeline, understand how is their day, what is important to them, and then I position myself and my brand to them. So the challenge I will ask, and I'll throw the challenge back at the agencies, is instead of sitting there saying I want to be involved, I mean the customer is the customer. Pipeline doesn't move. Whether you come with Kendi, and when I went with Jules, and I'm using that as a good example, I mean when you understand that, that's an insight you can sell to anyone. Because it's a certain, you can go to Absa and be like, by the way, did you know? I sat with this guy and this is what he told us about his what he needs when it comes to money. So I think number one, customer obsession is customer obsession. There's no rules around it, right? You're obsessed, you go, you do. Two is once you understand who, and that's what I'm saying, we need to see That's what I feel like, even, and I told all the agencies that, I'm like, how obsessed are you about me as your client? If you understand that obsession, then it's going to be so much bigger. There's no one who has ever came and told me, Kendi, I want to sit in your office. Which agency has ever come and told me? And I said, no, never. We want to. No. So the proactivity, I think, is very important. And the ownership, I mean, it's really understanding that. And once you do that, again, it stops being about them and us, right? And if you do that, I think, you'll meet each other in the middle. But it can't be you guys need to do and you guys need to do. It has to be like both sides.
I haven't had, if you're looking for an answer for the future of creativity, in my opinion, this is the answer. I had a failed bid in my previous book and defend that relationship with Tetsu. Not waiting for all of this, but because just psychologically and everything, when something has been done the same way for so long, it will take time. We made some progress, but I believed from the moment that relationship began that our conversations needed to be ongoing, even outside of the brief. But I don't know how old advertising is. It's been a brief-based relationship for the longest time. I don't think it will change overnight, but we need more of this kind of sentiments being made. It's very ironic. I now have a customer engagement agency that helps me do customer research work. I don't understand why I have to go and find a different agency to do that. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to say, because the insights they are generating could be so helpful to our creative agency. And why that silo exists, I'm part of the system, so I'm part of the problem. I'm not removing myself from the problem, but I'm saying I'm very, very conscious of that, and I think we need a collaborative effort as agencies and clients to make that happen.
Barriers to creativity, but I think sometimes we're the ones who create imaginary boxes which restrict ourselves. And I'll give an example of myself. I'll go back a couple of years when I made a transition from what we call mainstream radio to national and then vernacular radio. So right now I'm 6 years in a proper vernacular environment. That's CAS radio, TV. CAS is Kalenjin. I'm not Kalenjin, I'm Luya. So everyone who first of all comes across me to do the creative, they go like, your name starts with O, how? Well, I'm 5 years into it and I've hacked it. I make them a lot of money, so that they're happy with me. Another barrier I have is 3/4 of my work, I can't even understand it because the radio is in Kalenjin. So I just more or less rely on the fact that my presenters are going to do a good job, and they do a good job. Because when someone tells me they did say that, I can't help you. I have to get somebody to go listen to that and deal with it. Another problem we had, especially in the time of the pandemic, was EAPL had some communication and we're telling people, we have to assist people to know that their product is around and all. And they told us that they can't give us business because all these dialer delivery companies are urban-based. But we told them, why don't we simply take the numbers of your dealers and distributors in shards and give them to our listeners? And we did that, and I'm actually happy that about a month ago, I sat in some forum and EAPL were talking about, I think they now have a company called Drink something that caters to doing the deliveries and all. And that company, they were actually now encouraging people to actually give out their numbers and all to ensure that the product gets down to the people. And finally, just to give one shout out to tell you how good vernacular media is. For example, if there's a political rally that's to take place at Uhuru Park tomorrow, and you get Maina Kageni to run an announcement talking about the rally, and then you get, who can I think of? Okay, most of you won't know the names, but I get some random vernacular presented to talk about it. Minor will make noise about it, but the problem is, the people who Minor will talk to are the ones who will be like, they know the rally is taking place, and they'll be on their phones, WhatsApp, tell us what is going on. But the vernacular guy, the person he'll talk to, is the person who will actually attend the rally and will call from the rally and say that I'm at the rally and this politician has said this, that, or what. So with that brief bit, you need to ask yourself, where are you putting your money? You should actually put it on vernacular and not on your normal national media. Thanks.
All right, thank you. As we wind up,
really short. We have the customer research, and I don't know where the answer is because different brand relationship setups. You have research agencies which are separate from your agency, your creative agency. And I've worked in some of the biggest creative agencies, and the structure and the process, and even I've been on client side as well. And from a process and a structure, the feedback loop with the client, I'm not speaking to Safaricom, Kendi. The feedback loop, I know you guys have the CDI and everything, I've seen that. But it's not ingrained into your process to have a continuous feedback loop with the customer. We do a campaign, we do this, we understand exactly how it's going. We launch, what's the customer experience? We do a lead generation campaign. Are they being called back on time? Is the person who's calling them doing that? There's the gap. You want to understand your customer. There's budget allocation and process that needs to be added to have a continuous research focus. Because I've been listening to all of that, and that's coming through really. So yeah, the future of creativity does require data and proper research as well.
In setting up research departments, because in my experience, that capability does not exist to the agencies. But I could be wrong. I haven't seen it.
We want to do that, but somebody needs to pay for it.
We're going to pay. I have an agency that I've hired to pay to do research.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
But I think it's important as well, because for me research is an interesting one, because again, the person who forces creatives to sit in focus groups as they review their creating. And there's two things. One is it has to be credible. Okay? Like in institutions where you get a research report, it's big, it's like repositioning Safaricom. You know, like what's the size of the group? 14 people. Really? You know? And this 14 people said this. Yeah, 14 campus students, you know? And you're like, come on, you know? So I think, you know, that's the importance of research. It has to be credible. So there's the science behind the research, right? Focus, the confidence, accuracy, you know, how many people you need to sample, etc. And then more importantly, it just goes back to, I think the silos we create in our heads, whether I'm in a research agency, whether I'm in, and this is what I've been doing a lot as well. And as we move, you did a pitch, so I have to do the pitch, the brand pitch. So as we move to be a technology company, and you've seen a lot of conversations about being agile, we're really saying how can we also bring, so agility in creating products, but also agility in the creative process, which means that I will sit down, I'll get my agency to sit with my product team as they're ideating what the next proposition is. Because from that idea, there's something may come that will spark a thought. I get everyone to sit in the focus groups. My guys will sit in the focus group, so will the agency. So again, this whole cross-functional, it doesn't matter who you're the media guy or as long as we think of how we're working together, then the output is going to be the right output, right? So again, not being caught up by who sits, it doesn't matter. I'm like, are you all here? Do you all have this brand in your priority and this customer? That's it. Work together, it doesn't matter who works for who.
Awesome. Let's take one more comment.
Absolutely, it will be a comment. Well, first of all, I'd like to agree with her that indeed, it's all about working together. It's not about who brought in the best decision. What matters is the best decision, and that's why I'd like to reiterate on the fact that the future of creativity will also be greatly informed by the customers per se, because essentially, with these focus groups, that's where you get to learn about these consumer needs. You started by, Brian, when we were starting this, you stated that all great creations come from a point of constraint. And I believe as research agencies, it falls upon them to foresee this constraint, because essentially you don't want a company or an agency to find themselves in this point of constraint, so that you can now start being creative. It is by foreseeing this that you can now start working towards these measures that you need to take to avoid this point of constraint. So this research is not only important, it's actually crucial. Do this research and you will offset these constraints. No one wants the operation in a point of constraint. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So just to summarize, I guess there's not really like saying that we know where the future of creativity is going. It's actually, we're here to invent it. We're here to say that we do want these deep partnerships between clients, research agencies, consumer. We want to be more obsessive about our own clients. We want to be more obsessive about the customer. And you really want to put the product in the middle. We're still going out there to sell things for people. And all this is actually a mixture of very many things. So thank you so much, guys, for an amazing discussion. I think we've just run out of time. An applause for the panelists today.
Also, we'd like to show the entries. We're going to do a special entry.
All right, yes. Do you want to take this one?
Very quickly, Loeries entries are closed, but my team and I were having a chat. We went, okay, entries are closed, but we're probably going to meet people who want to enter. So what we're doing is, because we're doing this roadshow, if anyone does want to enter the Loeries this year, we're opening up again for a very short stint from the 25th to the 29th of July. So if you do have an amazing campaign and you've missed the entry deadline, but if you'd like to have it, please 25th to 29th July, look out for the comments. Yeah.
All right.
Since we're talking about entries, so I think first, because I went to the Loeries last year, and it was, you saw the video when we played, right? Did you see any Kenyans going up there? No. So first, we really need to enter, because we need to participate, okay? I like the challenge where he said, once upon a time, great creative used to come from Kenya. And sitting in a forum like that where everything is Middle East, South Africa, and I told him, I said, you have to come to Kenya first. In fact, I said we should do like a movie theater and see all, so we can just inspire ourselves. So I think we still need to do that. But I think as Safaricom, one of the things that I've taken that, it's one of the things that I'm like, guys, we have to win awards, right? We have to be on the map. We have to show up, yeah, because I love it. And last year at the Cannes, we got shortlisted for Bonga for Good. And we were like, guys, we can actually do this. We put in the entry and we actually got shortlisted in the Cannes. This year, Gilles just went to represent us, but I really want to challenge, for me it's about really, let's challenge ourselves to see how can we get into the Loeries, into Cannes, how do we get ourselves in the map. So there's a video, as we conclude, which is our entry. If I'm not wrong, we've entered this. Have we?
Yes, we have.
We have entered this. So again, leading from the front. This is sort of one of the ideas that we've entered this year, but I think it's really important that inspire you guys to enter.
I have no idea how to get rid of that. My marketing meeting and the screen, so apologies as I play. So the one. So it's this let's pause and let's try that again, because I think it's that marketing communication and we'll do it properly.
Africa, where we're able to take air pollution data and stream it to these digital billboards in an easy to understand manner. Instead of telling people that it is 100 micrograms per cubic meter. What we are doing is translating this into a color scheme. As the pollution grows because of traffic, because of open burning, those concentrations are going to increase, and the colors on those displays will change, going through a scale from green, turning to orange, turning to red, to purple, to brown. So anything other than green and blue is not good for you. So that people who don't understand what air pollution is all about have access to this information, have health advisories of what to do when the elevated levels of pollution is there, because as we know and as we've been hearing, PM 2.5 is damaging for health, for athletes, for just pedestrians walking on the street, and this is one effort using an easy way to communicate this information.
Something that we spoke about, the partnerships, more obsessive with the consumer, but still, at the end of the day, for you to work on the Loeries stage and pick up a Grand Prix images, it's a big idea and not necessarily a big budget. And the Jaws example, the mannequin, is actually a very good example of a really big idea. And yeah, with that, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for your attendance today. And Preetesh is buying drinks at the bar.
And the drinks coming. Thank you, everyone.